Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Time for some new music.
Time for some new music.
Yeah, Shutterbug has ran its course.
It's that thing when we come in. It brings us in, man.
You know what? It's time for some Ross, man. It's time for some Ross. I'm gonna grow my beard out.
McGruff, the crime dog here. Let's hear
Thanks,
from an
McGruff. I appreciate that.
He voicing his. He wants to roll with Ross.
He wants. Now, the big story that hit a couple days ago, ESPN the magazine, the cover story basically it's all about Mike Vick.
They have built him up, and now they are tearing him down.
No, I don't think they're tearing him down.
They're building their entire NFL coverage of him right now.
I don't think they're tearing him down.
Yeah, dude, every time I turn ESPN on, has he regressed? Has Michael Vick regressed? The Eagles have become the most hated team.
Well,
other than the Heat right now.
Well, that's a different argument. That's because the whole dream team thing. But I don't think
Babin makes you a dream team.
But no, I mean I didn't say it. But Vince Young said we're kind of like a dream team. And
listen to Vince.
But that's what happened.
Soft.
Vince is your boy.
He's still mentally soft. He's still just a.
But that's not the point.
That's not. We'll get on Vince another day.
Yeah, but
Charmin.
Here's the thing. Touré, who's a writer and hip hop enthusiast, if you will,
got a good fro.
Very good fro.
Good fro.
ESPN actually came to him and asked him to write a story about Michael Vick, and he did so because basically the title, which he didn't agree to, the title of it, "What if Mike Vick were white?" Oh, I'm sorry. Let me make sure I get this right. What if Michael Vick were white? That's the name. That's the name of it. And again, it's in the next edition of ESPN the magazine with Michael Vick on the cover. And Touré wasn't too happy with how his story and the title and then the picture of Mike Vick in whiteface came about. So this is what Touré had to say on CNN.
I was dismayed. I was horrified. I didn't imagine that they would do that. And it contradicts what I'm doing in the story, because I talk about that there's this commonplace idea, this thought experiment that all of us do, that if something happens to somebody, white or black, and you say, well, just switch their races, and then would it be racist or not racist? And this is supposedly a test to know, is it racist or not? Would the same thing happen if person was black or white? And I'm like, this whole concept doesn't really make any sense, because race informs your entire life. So you wouldn't even enter the same moment the same way, right? You'd be entirely different. If Michael Vick were white, if that was even imaginable, he may not even go to the NFL because he might see other options for his life.
Yep. So when I heard him talk about it and I read the article, I understand where he was coming from.
Me too.
I understand where he's coming from. But they also had on CNN the senior editor who basically had a hand in the picture and the title, and they asked her, why did they go in that direction? This is Raina Kelly, senior editor of ESPN, the magazine, and this is what she had to say.
Okay. Well, the first reason we did it is because, I'm sure as you know, the purpose of the art in a magazine, on television, and a newspaper is to accompany and make the reader think in a way similar to the story. We knew this picture was going to be provocative. We knew it was going to be thought-provoking. That is what we wanted. We did not want people to shut down. We wanted people to stop, look at the picture, and then read the article, which in fact is what they did.
And so now this is where we're at. This is my opinion on the article.
Okay.
I understand where Touré was coming from, but I think he was off base.
How?
Because the thing is, when people make that saying, because we've said it here a few times.
Yeah, everyone
says it. If Michael Vick were white, would he be in the situation he's in? I think Touré went almost. I understand where he was going, but I'm like, that has nothing to do with what we're trying to say, because what we're saying is, if a white player was, this is how I look at it. If a white player was in Michael Vick's situation, would it have been such a big deal? Nothing's wrong with saying that. He went on to saying how, well, if he was white, then he'd have different parents, and that's going too deep. That's what I think. Well, you're going too deep when you're talking about that.
But Touré wasn't simply speaking on the fact of, he wasn't talking about all people. He was speaking in general of Michael Vick, and he's saying if you want to crucify Michael Vick, think about this. And he's also saying, black people, before you start crying racism and you're saying, well, what if he was white? Would y'all still be that mad? Well, he's saying, well, black people, you need to think and say, okay, well, if he was white, he might not even be involved in that because he'd have a different upbringing. He'd have different options. So I understand exactly what he's saying.
But what I'm saying is his viewpoint on it. Don't you think he's going too deep with it when we talk about things like...
Not at all, because he's telling people to get past the shallow viewpoint of just saying, okay, if Michael Vick was white, he wouldn't be in as much trouble. That's why he's, that's how you know it's racist, because if he was white, he wouldn't have the same issues. He's saying you have to think deeper. You do. You have to look at it deeper. Michael Vick is the way he is because of the environment that he came up in. He is the way he is because of the people that were around him growing up. So if you say, okay, now you're white, you're going to be in a different environment. You're going to have different people around you. So he's saying stop using that argument, black people, because it's tired. He's saying, black people, that is a tired excuse that you're using. Stop using it.
But, and you asked this question, name a white person that's like really gotten into trouble like that.
Well, I was thinking about that last night. I was trying to think, okay, has there ever been a white person that has gotten in a sort of trouble that is sort of divided people? And then I had to think, well, most, basketball, football are 80% black?
Yep.
And just numbers don't really allow it to be a white guy to get in that type of trouble. But even before that, Michael Vick was polarizing. Michael Vick was always loved by black people.
Right.
They said he played his way, he ran, he had braids, he was athletic, and other people, white people said, he needs to sit in the pocket, he needs to throw the ball.
Right.
So it's always been a divide on Michael Vick. I think that's what adds to it, is that you have black people, he was in Atlanta, always have supported Michael Vick. They always love Michael Vick.
Yeah.
And then you seem to have just some people that will never like Michael Vick because they just say he's an athlete playing quarterback.
Okay.
Whereas we as black people just say, let him do him. So when the dog thing happened, people were just on one side or the other. And I think it has more to do with Michael Vick than it does to do with race. I think if it was another black player, it might not have been that big of a deal.
Oh, so you're saying regardless of race?
Regardless of race, I think because it was Michael Vick.
So if it had been, I'm not going to say Vince Young, if it was Vince Young, they would... with all his issues.
All right, let me give you an example. Like, remember when Kobe got in trouble for rape? There wasn't a huge divide. There wasn't a big deal. I mean, don't get me wrong. He was accused of rape, but there wasn't a rush by black people to defend him, and there wasn't a rush by white people to crucify him. But Michael Vick, kind of like Allen Iverson, has always been our boy.
Right.
Like, we protect people that we respect. Michael Vick had street cred. Allen Iverson had street cred. So black people are going to ride with him regardless. And
so, for instance, if it was Clinton Portis, that got caught with the dog,
he doesn't have the same connection to black people that Vick does.
Okay.
Michael Vick is 5'11", 190. He looks like somebody we can know. You feel like you can do what Michael Vick does because he's your size. Kobe Bryant 6'7". We can't relate to guys like that, but we can relate to Allen Iverson. We can relate to Vick because they feel hood. They feel black. You don't have to question their blackness. So you look at them and you're just like, man, these guys are black. I feel like I know them, and we protect them.
Okay. See, I mean, my whole thing, I understand where Touré and I understand where you're coming from. My thing is when we say things like, if he were white, I don't look at it if Michael Vick was white, grew up in a white neighborhood. I'm just thinking, if he was a white player that got in this kind of trouble, would it be this big of a deal? That's how I look at it. That's how I look at any situation. Yeah. If Jordan Jefferson was a white player that kicked a dude in the face, would he be in this much trouble? Because when we talk about Joshua Johns, he's a white player, not that good, but we're not really talking about it. Is it because of him being black? But what
Touré is trying to say is that that's a lazy argument. You have to think bigger than that. You can't just do the role reversal. You have to say, okay, well, if this guy was white, he'd be different. He'd be a completely different person. If you were white, would you be different or would you be the same person?
Different. Of course you would be different.
Exactly. So Touré is saying stop using that excuse, black people. He's basically saying that to black people.
Right.
Stop using that excuse, please.
Gotcha. Now, going on to something that I know that kind of pissed you off, the picture itself.
It's bad. That's a bad look. I mean, if it was blackface, Al Sharpton and Jesse Jackson would have a fit.
Okay.
Black people would have a fit. They'd be outraged. I mean, I know what ESPN's trying to do.
Right.
Like she said, we're trying to put a picture up to make you stop and think, the hell? Michael Vick's white?
Right.
Let me read this.
Right.
So I understand what she was trying to do. It was brilliant on ESPN's part, but it's a bit insensitive. If black people can get mad about somebody being painted up in blackface, then white people can get mad about somebody being painted up in whiteface.
Well, here's the thing, but and that to go against that argument is they're not going to get mad.
They might.
They're not going to get mad.
They're more within their rights to get offended.
When we talk, if a white person called us a nigger, that would piss us off. Right? No. In the way it's supposed to piss us off. You know what I'm saying? Not my nigga. If you say you nigga. You know what I'm saying?
But there's no good racist terms for white people.
I know. You can't call him a cat. They're not going to be Casper.
You know, you
Cracker.
You know, it's like there's no good.
No, but that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So when you
derogatory term for
we don't got
people.
it.
We need to come.
We
up
don't
with
have one. So when they paint him in whiteface, it doesn't do anything. It's not insensitive to anybody.
It is because
it's not.
If it was blackface, it'd be a big deal.
Of course, because
so you have it has to go both ways. We can't cry racism.
It can't go both ways.
It has to.
It has to. You can't hurt. You cannot hurt a white person like that.
Then we can't hurt. It's not about hurting. It's about. Then we can't bitch about it. Then we can't bitch about it.
You can't be insensitive to white people when it comes to pictures.
Sure, you can. You can be insensitive to a human.
Like if you paint him, if you give him the white face, I understand. Like you said, I understand what ESPN was trying to do. But what I'm saying is, you can't. It doesn't. It's not going to bring up the emotion of if you put a white player in blackface because we know the history of that.
We know the history of it, but you still can't do it, man. And like we're at the point right now, man, where we can't sit here and just always cry racism, but then we can't sit there and get mad about the same things. We can't. That's the only way we're going to get past it. Like really. You can't always cry racism, and then when something happens on the other end, look like, oh, y'all got to deal with it because y'all white. Mm-hmm. You know, we got to stop doing that. Like Touré is trying to say, we have to eliminate the lazy arguments of racism, and we have to think bigger than that. You have to think bigger.
I don't know. I'm just saying
that, and you're taking the exact approach that Touré said. You're taking a lazy approach.
But the thing is,
it runs deeper than just painting a guy's face. You have to think your race, your religion, where you're from, your creed, whatever the hell creed is, race, religion, origin, creed, whatever that is, it shapes who you are.
Right.
It shapes who you are. It truly does.
When we come back, Rolling Stones has initiated a feeling right now in the hip-hop community of who is the king of hip-hop.
We got a rapper painted in whiteface. Up top.
When we come back, it's a booth with Big Med and Jay Lee.
ChicagolandSportsRadio.com.
Come on. Laptops, MP3.